Welcome to Toyota Time with Timmy the Toolman and Sean. Today I have my buddy Way over and he's going to help me shoot a video for y'all. And what we're going to show you how to do today is how to fix a non-functioning electric door lock. As these vehicles age, the little motors that operate the locks get tired and they finally fail to work to unlock your door or to lock it. In the name of saving money, we figured out how to do this job for the least amount of money as possible. And what that entails is taking out the door lock module, cracking open the case, and just replacing the little motor. It's a little motor like this. It's a little RC motor. And this is what one of the door lock modules looks like. It attaches to the locking mechanism, and the little motor operates this little arm. So we cracked open this case. This is a module we grabbed out of a wrecked rig at a pick and pull. We cracked it open, and then you can see the internal guts. There's a little motor, and there's the little plastic gears that the motor turns. It's a very simple mechanical design. There's not a whole lot going on here. A little motor, a little worm gear that turns a plastic gear. So what we're going to show you how to do is tear apart the door panel to where you can pull out this module that's attached to the locking mechanism for your door, and we're going to show you how to break this apart and then replace the motor and get it all put back together. In preparation for this job, what Way and I did as research is, number one, we looked for some existing write-ups or videos on this. And what we found on t4r.org is there's this gal who goes by Habanero. Her name is Susan. And she did a nice write-up on Yoda Tech, but we found out about this write-up via T4R because she's a member of that forum too. So she did a nice write-up of detail of taking the door panel off and all the different things you have to take off to access this module, so you can tear it apart, replace the motor, and put it all back together. The other thing that we did is we went to the pick and pull and we practiced on a wreck rig. So this is something that we highly recommend you do. Before you do a job that you're a little bit uncertain of, why not test it out on a wrecked rig where if you screw up, no big deal. But if you screw up on your rig, you're going to be living with the consequences of making a big mistake and damaging something. Way and I practiced on both front doors on a wrecked rig at a San Jose pick and pull, and we learned a lot from that experience, and now we're going to perform the same procedure on my 98 4runner, which has a non-working driver's side door lock. Other than pulling off these door lock modules off the wrecked rig, we pulled off some other parts that we feel are nice to grab while you're there. One of those is the panel clips. These are the clips that clip in the interior door panel to the actual door, and these things can sometimes break. So what we did is we harvested a bunch of these clips from the wrecked rig at the pick and pull, so in case we break one, we have a replacement. Another thing we grabbed is there's these little clips that the rod mechanisms for the door locks clip into. These are prone to break as well, so what we did is we grabbed as many of these as possible, so in case during the job we break one of these rod clips, we can just easily replace it instead of having to go to Toyota and hopefully be able to buy one from Toyota. And I'm guessing these will probably be like $2 or $3 a piece. So this baggie is full of all those clips that we might need to use during this video. As for these replacement little RC motors for the door locks, Habanero mentioned another guy named Octane Junkie on T4R, and he provided a link to an eBay seller that sells these for a very affordable price. The more you purchase from the eBay supplier, the cheaper the cost. So I bought 4 of these, and these ended up running me $7.50 a piece. That's a very affordable price compared to what you would pay for one of these modules from Toyota. I went to my local dealer in San Jose, California, and I got a bunch of part numbers and prices that I'm going to share with you in the video description. These run anywhere from $130 to $150, and there's some differences between the years. 96 to 2000, you can just replace this module and you could save a little money. For the 2001 and 2002s, you have to buy the whole locking mechanism that we're going to show you once we get in there and pull it apart. and those run about $150. Safe to say, spending $7.50 is a hell of a lot better than spending $130 to $150 for a replacement locking module. This job is going to save you a ton of money. Now let's go out to my rig and let's show you what I'm talking about with the non-functioning door lock. So I'm at the driver door of my 98 4runner, and you'll find that there's some differences between the years. With this 98 4runner, when I push the button, it opens up all 4 doors and it opens up the rear hatch. With my 2000 4runner, when I push the button one time, it opens only the driver door, and then when I push it a second time, it opens up the rest of the doors. So with this 98, when I push this key fob, it should open up all the doors, but you're going to see that the driver door is not going to open. It just moved a little bit, but it didn't move enough to open it up all the way. But you'll see that it locks fine. So I think it's because gravity is working with you with the locking of it, but opening, you're working against gravity. So you'll see that it will lock. But then again, when I try to open it up, it doesn't open up. What's interesting is, why did the driver door fail and not the other ones? Because every time you operate the fob, all the locks pop and all the locks close every time you operate it. Why the driver door lock motor decided to get tired before the other ones, who knows? But this is what we're going to be fixing, the fact that we don't have a working door lock anymore on this driver door. So you might be thinking, what's the big deal? You got the key, you can open up the door lock. Well, it's just a little bit of an inconvenience. You come out of a store or you go out to your vehicle to go to work, you open the door locks and it doesn't open. So then you got to grab your key and you got to open it up. Now when you start the vehicle, all the locks are going to lock for you, and I'll show you that. You saw that they lock. Now when you come to a stop and you turn the key off, the door locks open for you, right? Kind of nice. But again, this didn't open for me. So sometimes I get fooled, even though I know the door lock doesn't work on this 98 4runner. On my 2000, the door locks work. So I find myself going like this, like, oh, I gotta open it up. It becomes a little bit of a pain in the butt. It's just a inconvenience thing. And if you get tired of the door lock not working, you will follow this video and learn how to fix it for a very nominal fee. So let's get started on this job. All right, so we have to get this door panel off. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pry up right here using a trim removal tool. You can use a screwdriver, but the nice thing about these trim removal tools is they won't scratch anything up because they're plastic. Get yourself a thin one or a thin screwdriver. Get up underneath the controls here. There's a clip right here that you have to overcome. Slide underneath, just pry up a little bit. You saw that it gave. There's a little tab in here that you have to get free, so you pull forward a little bit and then you can access the plugs. One of them's right here. I'm going to squeeze this and pull it out, and that's for the mirror control. Then you have this connector that's for the windows and the door locks. I'm going to use 2 hands on this one. I'm going to push the tab with my right finger and then grab the sides of the connector and pull down, and then now we have it free. So we have this whole window and mirror and door lock module free. The next thing we're going to pry up is this armrest, and the reason why we have to do that is this is hiding 2 screws that we have to remove to get the panel off. So same thing, get in with a slim tool and just pry upward and you can free this. It's not held in very tight with these clips, and you can see the clips that hold it in place. There's one here and there's one here, and they go into these holes right here, and then right over here. Now we're going to take off these 2 screws that hold the panel to the door. Your best bet is using a JIS screwdriver, a Japanese industrial standard screwdriver, but a regular Phillips screwdriver will work too. It's just that JIS screwdrivers will get a better bite on the head of these Japanese industrial standard screws. For this job, you're going to want the window rolled all the way up, because the window down in the door panel is going to get in your way of getting the locking module out. Make sure that the window's rolled all the way up before you start tearing apart the door panel. The next thing we're going to remove is this door lock handle. It's held in again with another JIS or Phillips head screw. Loosen it, lefty loosey. Now with the screw out, what you want to do is you want to grab onto this and pull it towards the dashboard. You need to access a little clip that you have to remove. It's a white clip right here, and hopefully the video is capturing that. You have to pry it forward towards you to get the clip loose of the rod, and then you could slide the rod out of this door handle. You just get a flat blade screwdriver behind it and pull backwards. There we go. I got it loose. You can see the clip where it pops into the rod, and now I just need to push the metal rod downward to free it of this door handle. So I'll use my flat blade screwdriver for that. I'm going to push down, and then now you can see how we cleared it. The rod slides right into there, and then it rotates and snaps onto the rod to lock it in place so it can't fall out. So now this is free of the panel. The next thing we're going to remove is two little clips. These clips are kind of a pop-in type of clip. You push in right here in the center to unlock it, and then you got to get in with a slim tool to pry it out. You can see how it works. When you push in the center, it pushes out these fins and locks it in place. We have another clip just like it, but it's just a little bit bigger, but the same type of mechanism. You push the middle, it pops, you get in with a slim tool, and you pry it out. And there it is. Now that we have all these pieces off the door panel, we're ready to pull it free of the door. We have to overcome all these clips that attach the panel to the door. What we're going to do is we're going to use one of our trim removal tools, but you pretty much could actually get your hand in here to start it on this inside. On the outside, it fits pretty tight and you can't really get your hand in there, but you'll find on this inside you can actually get your hand in there pretty easily. But I'm going to go ahead and try to use this tool regardless. You want to pull sort of gently. You're just trying to overcome the clips. Don't use your gorilla strength and really pull violently. Do it easy and just work your way around the door and free all the clips. There we go. It's pretty free now, and this door panel kind of hooks over the top of the door, so you want to raise it up to free it. And there you go. You can see all the clips that we freed of the door. So now you have the interior of your door exposed. You can see right here, this is the little rod that the door handle was hooked to. And these doors will be protected with this vapor barrier plastic. This looks like somebody did some work on this door before, because this black adhesive isn't fully intact, and I can see how the plastic is crinkled. Whoever worked on this did a little bit of a sloppy job getting it back in place. So what we have to do is we have to peel back this plastic membrane to where we can access all the fasteners we have to loosen to get the door lock mechanism out. So this stuff is really like gooey gunk. I don't know what you call it. You can take a razor blade and carefully remove it, or you can just do like I'm doing right here and just gently pull on it and pull down to expose the area you need to work. When you're pulling off this membrane, this door handle rod is going to get in your way, so we're going to want to remove it and not tear the plastic. That would not be ideal. Before I start removing it though, I'm just going to mark this side that faces outward, so I know when I put this back together that this side goes to the door handle and the other side goes to the lock mechanism inside the door. The other side of this rod is held in with a similar clip. I'm going to utilize this borescope camera to show you where that clip is. You have this little plastic sticker that you can just peel off with a screwdriver, and this is going to be perfect because I can look down with the borescope and show you what I'm doing with my hand. So what we're going to use to get that clip free for the door handle rod is a flat blade screwdriver. So Wei is going to grab onto the rod with his left hand and pull it towards him to expose the clip better, and then he's going to get on the clip with the tip of the flat blade screwdriver and flip it up. Okay, we got a good shot. Go ahead, Wei. There we go. It's free. And you can see that with this one, once you remove the clip, you got to push it away from you to free it of the lock mechanism, and then you can just pull the thing out. This is the door handle rod. We want to remove this little lock handle, so you just twist it lefty-loosey and it comes off. For this plastic membrane, you're going to want to remove it enough out of the way to give you the access to disconnect the electrical connectors and to give you access to pull the whole locking mechanism out through the bottom. It might hang up right here around this plastic nut. You just have to pull it free of that and peel it back far enough to where you can get to the electrical connectors. You're going to want to be able to get access to this one, and then to be able to get access to these clips to pop them out to where you can free the whole mechanism. This vapor barrier plastic might be blowing around and getting in your way, so I'm just going to take some painter's tape and I'm just going to tape it back to where it's not going to get in my way anymore. This is the electrical connector for the door lock module, and there's another one in here that we'll show you how to disconnect once we get the whole mechanism free. You have to push this tab down and then pull the two halves apart. And there we go, it's disconnected. We're going to want to get this electrical plug free of the door, and the type of clip that this thing has is exactly like this one. It's got these little fins that protrude out and capture it. So you have to get in with a tool and push on one side, push on the other side, and then you can get it popped free. Just like that. But these are on the inside, so they're going to be a little bit harder to do, but I'm going to see if I can do the same thing. You're not going to be able to see it, but I'm going to try to get it with the same tool. Just like that. You can see the little fins that I pushed in on either side to free it. I'm going to try the same with this other one. So this one threw me for a little bit of a curveball. I thought the clips were going to be on the left and right, but they're actually top and bottom. So if you can come in there with the tool and push on the little tabs top and bottom, then you can free that. So now this whole thing is free. Now we're going to remove all the fasteners that hold the door lock mechanism and this door lock module to the inside of the door. This bracket on this door lock module is held in with this 10mm bolt right here. This one is for the tracking mechanism for the window, so don't remove this one. So the next two fasteners we're going to remove is one up here, 10mm bolt, and then one down here. And what these two bolts hold is a window track that will get in your way from being able to remove the locking mechanism. By removing these, you can move the track out of your way to get the lock out. You'll notice that this one is a little bit different. It has a plastic washer. This will enable you to differentiate it from the other two 10mm bolts, which are exactly the same. So you can see with those two 10mm bolts removed, I can manipulate this whole window track so we can move it out of the way to where we can get the door lock mechanism out. So there's two more clips that we're gonna remove to get the door lock mechanism free. They're the similar type of clip where you have to unclip it, then slide the rod out. One of them is right there, it's yellow. And then there's another one that we're gonna show with the borescope camera that's behind. So to get to the back clip for another rod, I'm going to come in with a flat blade screwdriver from here, and then I'm going to show you what I'm doing with the borescope camera. So you can see that this right here, that's the key lock right there that you put your key in to open the door. And then right here is the little plastic clip I have to flip up. So I'm going to get on the edge of it, twist the screwdriver, and then you can see that it's flipped up now. And then now you can slide the rod out. And it's free. So the last one we got to get is this yellow one that connects up to this pretty large rod. You can just get in there with your finger and flip it up. Now this rod fits in pretty tight because it's got a little flared nub on the end that you have to overcome, so it's not going to slide out easy. It's going to fight you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in through this access hole right here with a little pry bar. You could come in with the screwdriver, and I'm going to push on the opposite side with the tip of the tool to pop it out, and you'll see that. I'm going to pull down the rod with my hand. I'm coming in the back side with the tool, and I'm prying towards me to pop it free. Just like that. You can see the little German helmet there that you had to overcome. All right, Way and I think that we have all the little rod clips free to where now we can finally remove these 3 Torx head bolts out to remove the whole locking mechanism. These are a number 30 Torx head, and again I'm going to use my little Milwaukee M12 ratchet to zip them out. Now when I remove this last one, the door lock mechanism is going to want to fall, so I'm going to reach in and hold on to it. Okay, and you can see it's falling out, and you're going to see why getting the window track out of the way is important. So I'm going to hook it up here, and I'm going to drag this whole thing out. This lock rod is coming through this plastic piece here, and this is the whole unit. The last thing we have to do is we got to disconnect this connector. The push tab is right here. Push in and pull back, or at least you try to. There we go. I'm getting old and losing my strength. Okay, so now we have the whole thing free. Yay! So before we move on to showing you how to break open the locking module to replace the motor, I want you to attend my 3rd Gen 4runner door lock Anatomy and Physiology 101. So I wanted to do this just to reiterate all the little things that you have to disconnect. If you were standing in front of the door that's open, it sits into the door just like this. This is where it latches to the door jamb on the nadir pin. This one right here, this rod, connects up to the door handle. So when you pull the door handle, it's going to operate this in this fashion. This one right here connects up to the key. So when you turn the key one way or the other, it's going to unlock or lock the lock. And then we have this one. This is the one that's hooked up to the little knob that you can pull at the top of the door to lock and unlock the lock too. Watch this one as I manipulate the key lock. It's going to move. You can kind of mess with it and learn how these things work, but we just wanted to show you a little bit how this mechanism works. The first rod we disconnected was right here. It plugs in right on this yellow clip right here. This is the one that went to the interior door handle. This one will operate the locking mechanism too. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get this door lock module free of the rest of the locking mechanism. It's held on by 3 screws, one here, and then on the opposing side there's one right here. This one you technically don't have to remove because it's just holding on a bracket, but I think I will remove this anyways just to get the bracket out of my way, so when I crack open the case it's not going to hinder me. Okay, and I'll flip it over, and I'm going to get this one, and it just slides out like that. So like I said, I'm going to remove this bracket too to make it easier to crack open the case. Now we're going to take this to the workbench, and we're going to work on getting these 2 halves separated. So when cracking this open, you're not messing with this end where you have the electrical plug. It's just from here to here. You can see the outline of the motor right here. It goes right here like this. What we're going to use to separate these 2 halves, you can see that there's a groove right here. We're going to take a utility blade and we're going to carefully slice into that groove and work our way around as best we can to free the 2 halves. You'll notice that when it gets to right here, it might not be so easy to get the blade in there, but we're going to have pretty good access with the blade all along this side, along the bottom, and along most of the opposite side. Before we start cutting on this, let's examine the one that we already separated that we got from the pick and pull. You can see that there's some raised edges. What you ideally don't want to do is go too deep with your utility blade and slice off these ridges, because these will help the 2 halves go together more positively with some glue. There's this bottom side has a nice little ridge here, and then right near this worm gear there's a ridge here, and you can see that I actually went too deep and cut it off. So we're going to mark those areas on mine on the outside so we know not to cut too deep in those areas. So it looks like this area right here we want to be careful about, and then from here back, it's a little dirty, but I'm just going to mark it, and that's it. So this area here and this area right here, we want to make sure we don't cut too deep with the utility blade. So I'm going to capture this in my bench vise with some soft jaws. These are rubber jaws. You want to capture it tight enough to where you can get in there with your utility blade to start cutting into this groove, but you just don't want to grab on it so tight that you would damage the case. So just be really careful how much pressure you use. Only use the amount of pressure you need to hold it firm. Okay, with a nice sharp brand new blade, I'm going to cut right in this little groove here. And just use moderate pressure and do several swipes. You just don't want to go in too deep. So after you do multiple passes, being careful not to go too deep, you'll feel it slip in a little bit further, and then you know that you've basically overcome the original adhesive. So that right there, the tip slipped in way more than here, so I know I'm through right here, and I can feel that I'm through all the way there. So it's basically separated in this area. I'm just going to do a little bit more right here. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to work on this side a little bit more, not go too deep. Okay, that's feeling good on this side. Okay, I'm through on the bottom. I'm going to work on this other side. I think that's going to be enough. Now with a skinny screwdriver, this is part of like an eyeglass kit, you can get in here and you can start prying it open. You can see I'm getting a little bit of daylight. Okay, I got a little daylight there. There we go. Don't want to break the thing. The one side that you really can't get to is this side near the plug, so hopefully it's just going to finally give way after prying a little bit. You can see the separation I have now. And there we go, finally it's out. So here's the two halves separated, the motor, little worm gear, and then you have your little plastic gears here. This motor just plugs in with a couple little prongs, so you could just pull straight up and free it. You can see the prongs right here. All we have to do is we just have to remove this little worm gear. It's got a little bit of lubrication on it, little like silicone grease. Pull the sucker off. Let's compare the motors. So by matching up the new one with the old one, you can see that they are the same size. They just look a little bit different in the manufacturing of the case, but put them front to back, you can see that they're the same height. It's going to work fine. We just noticed that there's a little rubber pad here and it goes right behind here, maybe just to keep the motor a little more steady. You can see the little holes where the prongs slide into, so you just plop it in just like this. And then you got to get your little worm gear back on. And that's pretty much it, other than the fact that now we got to glue this thing back together. To glue these two pieces back together, you can use whatever adhesive you think will do the job. I'm going to use some super glue made by Gorilla Glue, but you can maybe use JB Weld, maybe some type of epoxy, maybe even silicone might do it, but I think the super glue is nice because it sets up really fast and you can get this thing back together quickly. Now, how hard will it be to separate it in the future if the motor goes out again? I don't know, but I'm going to worry about that when that time comes. To prep the surfaces, I'm just going to use some denatured alcohol on a rag and clean up both halves. So we got both halves cleaned up really good with the denatured alcohol. Pay attention to the directions on the glue. This one says you got to shake it well, so I shook it well. And then now I'm going to apply some. And Wayne and I decided that because this has the little lip on this side, we're going to apply the glue on this side rather than the other side, so we don't get too much and potentially maybe get it on the gear, which we don't want it on the gear. And we're not going to bore you with this. We're just going to put a bead of glue on this side only. So I've got a bead of super glue on the one half, and then we're just going to put it together. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this over to my bench vise and clamp it in there and hold it for just a little while. So the end of the little arm that operates the door lock, it slides into this slot right here, right below this rod with the blue clip. When you're sliding the door lock module in, that little arm needs to go right in there. You slide it in this fashion. You just have to make sure the little arm goes in right there on this bracket right here, on the same arm. And then it's just a matter of getting all the screws back in. You have these two right here, and then you have one on the back side right here. And then don't forget to put your little bracket back on. Okay, those two are in. Okay, that one's in. And then finally I'm going to get my bracket back in place. And you can't really mess this up because the little tab right here has to go into this little hole right here. You just put it on the only way it can go, which is just like this. Now that we have the lock module back connected with a new motor, let's get this thing back into the door, and fingers crossed it's going to work. But before we actually bolt this thing up and connect up all the rods, we're going to do a little test. So right now, by manipulating this one, I have it to where it's in the unlocked position. If I push down on this, that's unlocked. So I'm going to put it in the unlocked position. We're going to connect up the connector, and then I'm going to turn the key on and cycle the locks and see if it works. So what we did is we reconnected the window and door lock controller, and then we have the door lock mechanism connected with the two connectors. And now when I cycle the locks, you'll see that the rod moves up and down. So it appears we did it right. So in true Timmy the Toolman fashion, because we're learning as we're doing, making sure we're showing you the best procedure how to do things, Wade just noticed that instead of trying to struggle to get the locking mechanism through this, you can just pull this up out of the way. Another thing we realize is that you got to make sure that when you slide this back in, that things are in their proper place. So the window track has to go right in between these rods. These two rods are going to face the outside of the vehicle, and then this rod is going to face the inside of the vehicle, and the window track is going to go right between here. You have to make sure that the rods go in the right place, because when you start bolting things up, you're going to realize you messed up and you're going to have to take it back out again to make it fit right. So I'm going to go in the way I brought the locking mechanism out. I'm going to go in through here. So you can see that I have the window track in my hand. I'm going to put it right in the center here. Make sure the two rods I mentioned are going to go on the forward side, and this one is going to be on this side. It looks like I've got the rods in the right place, and now I'm going to start affixing the lock with the 3 Torx head bolts. For right now, I'm just going to get these hand tight. Now we can slide this little plastic sleeve back in place. We just go right over the locking mechanism, slide it on down, and there we go. Going in reverse order, now I'm going to get those 2 innermost rods reconnected with the little clips. So we're going to go for the smaller of the 2 rods first. You slide it back in, and then I'm going to come in through this access hole, push it in, and then I'm going to use my other index finger and snap it in place. And now that one snapped in. This one again snaps in with a little more force. I'm going to push it in, feel it snap, and then bring this little plastic lever down and snap it in place. I'm going to plug in this electrical connector, and it goes on in this fashion with the protrusion facing this direction. So you could just feel in there and snap it in. It's pretty easy. The other one is going to plug back in these 2 spots right here. So you plug this in, you plug this one in, and then you can reconnect it right here. You also have the clip that comes in from the back side here. snap that in, and then now all the clips are connected properly. We're next going to get the 10mm bolts back connected, one that holds a little bracket on the module, and then the other two that hold the window track. So I'm going to go for the module one first. That one started. Now there's another one up here. You might have to manipulate the bracket a little bit. Okay, I got it. And then remember, the last one with this plastic washer goes on the bottom. Using your free hand on the inside will help you line it up. So now that all the fasteners are connected, we're going to tighten everything up. I'm certain there's a torque spec for this, but do I care? No, I don't really care. I don't think it takes a lot of force. I'm just going to use my little shorty 3/8 ratchet and tighten it up to that German spec of good and tight.
Okay, Herr Gut and Tight.
The main thing with turning bolts and nuts 101 is you don't want to over tighten and strip or break anything. So better to have it a little loose than too tight. You can always go back and recheck your work and make sure that nothing came loose. Or you can maybe put a little blue Loctite on it, no big deal. Okay, those are cinched up tight. I'm going to transition to a 10mm. I'm going to tighten up the window track one first. That's good enough. Good enough. And then this last one for the motor bracket. Okay, all the fasteners are tight. I'm just going to put this little plastic piece that goes over this access hole. I don't know if it's going to stay or not, but basically this is an access hole to where you can get to the door lock handle. You have one nut here, and then using this access hole you can get to the other 10mm nut if you wanted to release the handle from the door. The last piece we have to connect is this rod that goes to the interior door handle. And if you marked it like I did, I know that this side goes to the door handle, this side goes to the mechanism in the door. And if you remember, the clip sits right about here, so you can look in through this hole right here to see what you're doing. And what I found is if I just put it in this little clip that it goes into, that's kind of holding it in position for you, and then you could work the rod forward and get it into the hole. Okay, I got it in there, and I just got to push the clip down, and there we go. It's reconnected. So now that you have the rod in place, you can slip it through this hole in the plastic and then get your vapor barrier plastic back in place. You might find that, especially like my rig, somebody previously removed this membrane and I think they lost some of the black adhesive. I'm going to use some packing tape to re-secure this because the black adhesive alone is not going to properly adhere to the door. And then just going to work my way around. Anywhere it's not sticking well, I'm going to put a piece of packing tape. Right down here, there's a little gap that's supposed to be there to let moisture get out. So it's a little ventilation to give a little bit of airflow, so it's not an airtight seal. So make sure if you're using some tape like I do, don't tape this bottom side. And the tape I'm using is just a universal packing tape. Once you got the membrane all connected and secure, you're going to want to get your door panel back in. Just make sure that you have all the clips in place, that they didn't break or fall out. And then what you have to do is you have to lift this over the locking mechanism. You have to screw this back on till it's tight and it's in this orientation. Slide it up over, push the door panel up against the window, line up the door lock, and then just kind of push it down. And you'll know when it's fully seated. Other visual indicators are when you got your holes lined up right here, and then you look over here, oh yeah, it looks like it's lined up. So now I feel confident I can start pushing this thing in place. Okay, it looks like all the clips are in. I'm gonna get my two little tabs put back in. So what you wanna do is you wanna push the tab back out, slide it back in, and then push the little rod in. And that locks it in place. Just gotta push it back in, push the pin in, lock it in place. So now we're gonna get our door handle back in place. We gotta slide the rod into this clip. I'm gonna use this little pick tool, slide it in there. Got it started. Got it pushed in, and now I just got to rotate the clip and push it in place. Just like that. So you have to get these plastic clips slid in, and then you have to push it forward, just basically the reverse of you getting it out. So you got to make sure it's pushed in, and then you got to slide it backwards, and then you line up the screw hole. Okay, I'm going to get these two screws back in that go behind the armrest. Okay, both those screws are tight. I'm just going to pop this back in place. One thing that I forgot to reiterate when you're getting this door panel in, make sure that you get these plugs into this access area. If you close the panel down with these captured behind the panel, then you're going to have to pull it back out. So just make sure you do that. I'm going to plug this back together, and then remember it slides in like this from this side going back. Okay, moment of truth. We're going to use the fob and see that it opens up the door locks and it closes it. Hey, it works. Close them. Hey, that works too. Make sure my key still operates the door lock. Okay, that works. Let's see that the door locks lock when I start it up and open when I turn it off. Okay, they locked. I'm going to turn it off and they should open up. Hey, we did it. Yeah! All right, so Wei and I are all done with this job. It's a little bit of a test of patience to get your hand in there to get those little rod clips unclipped and hopefully not break any of them in the process of getting the door lock mechanism free. But if you follow our lead and use the access points and the tools we use, we think you could easily be successful with this job. We think it's well worth it, because regardless if you are going to just try to replace this little motor, you're still going to have to remove the whole locking mechanism like we show from the door to replace a whole unit that you buy either from Toyota or maybe some aftermarket supplier makes one. But as you saw, it's not that difficult to take it that little extra step of using a utility blade to crack open this case, exposed to where you can pull this motor out, put in a replacement motor, glue it back together, and then get the whole locking mechanism back in the door and everything put back together. It's really not that hard, but like I said, it could be a little bit of a test of patience getting your hands in there, especially if you got some big meat hooks. You're going to have a little bit harder time getting in there with your hands or with the tool to do the necessary work. We will put links in the video description of these little motors you can buy via a eBay seller, and then we're going to put all the links of the tools we used for this job in the video description as well. With all that said, we thank you for watching Toyota Time with Timmy the Toolman and Sean and my special helper Wei. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you have any questions or comments, do that below. Take care. Bye-bye. Sick mods. Sick door lock module repairs. Happy wrenching. Peace out. Bye-bye.